If you want to help Myth Vision Podcast grow, you can join our Patreon. There are different tiers, as well as help out with PayPal. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Dr. Price, Chris Palmero asks, Dr. Price, what do you think of the 2nd century apologist who supposedly wrote the Greek audiences like Athenagoras, Manicius Felix, Tatian, Aristides, if I'm pronouncing this correct, and why they totally de-emphasize Jesus and the New Testament? Specifically, what he thinks of the modern apologetic argument on this, that they didn't mention those things because they were trying to emphasize only what they thought would appeal to learned pagans. Is that argument valid in any way?
I don't think it is because, as Jacob Neusner said, what we cannot show, we do not know. You can't, this argument seems to be saying that that even though they don't mention the stuff, they must have known it. Well, how do we know that? Well, because all early Christians knew about the Gospels and Jesus and all that stuff. They must have. Why? I mean, why should we think so? Just because all the early Christians were the same and they were basically the same as modern Christians. It's like it's the twin of the argument that tries to refute Burton Mack and others about Q. Mack says if Q existed and it was somebody's testament of Christianity, somebody's de facto scripture with here's what you should know, Jesus said, and there's nothing in it about his death and resurrection or anything like that, no Christological titles are used, that stuff was just not of interest to them. That seems a little hard to believe. And Max says we have no real evidence that whoever compiled this believed any of these things. Wouldn't they have said it? And if they didn't and still knew it, you really got to ask why. Or the same thing when people say that the writers of the epistles certainly knew gospel material, etc., but they didn't attribute stuff to Jesus. Why? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more. Even somebody of the stature of the late, great James Dunn, who passed away this week, I was very sorry to hear that. I really loved his books for decades. He said, well, somehow they figured that if they attributed these sayings to Jesus, though they knew that's where they came from, it would be less effective than not attributing them to him. That seems crazy to me. And it's the same kind of nonsense, whereas it seems much more reasonable to say that, no, once they get quoted and ascribed to Jesus in the Gospels, it's because people have decided, oh, Jesus must have said it. But the lack of attribution in the epistles seems to mean that they didn't know because it wasn't true. And I'd say the same with the 2nd century apologists.